Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's still morning. Let me thank you for coming at such short notice. Over the course of the last 12 to 15 hours, I've been in continuous conversation with the Minister of Health, the Chief Medical Officer, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, um, and the Prime Minister of St. Lucia and the Carnival Corporation. Let me say at the outset, there is a scurrilous rumor going around that would suggest that the Carnival Fascination ship has over 170 people sick. And I want to debunk that and to let all Barbadians know up front and center that that is an untruth. There is a consideration that we have to take into account, and that related to the fact that the Carnival Fascination was to have docked in St. Lucia this morning. The government of St. Lucia would have indicated that given the circumstances which I would outline very shortly, they were not in a position to be able to do what we have to do. This ship has on it 37 Barbadians as well as 140 people who will be disembarking in order to catch a plane to go back predominantly to the United Kingdom. Barbados, as you know, is a home port in some instances for some cruise ships, and with the ability for us to be able to allow people to embark ships from here and disembark, it comes with the responsibility that we are all aware as a nation we have always risen to whenever there are obligations on our part. The staff and management of the Carnival Cruise Corporation would have indicated to me sometime about 11:30 last night, 11:45, that there had been an instance where there was one crew member as well as two other persons on board who earlier in the week had flu-like symptoms. The cruise line has the ability to test for the flu-like symptoms for influenza A. Two of the persons tested positive for influenza A. The third person did not test positive for influenza A. By the same token, by yesterday, that third person, who is in fact a crew member, would have stopped showing any symptoms, or as the doctors call it, was asymptomatic. But for you and me, showed no symptoms. As a result of that, they are reasonably confident that there's nothing to worry about. But we believe that in the same way that the ship took its ultimate precaution and isolated the crew member, when and that their first report to us and to the St. Lucian government, which was shared with us, had on it, on the medical health declaration form, that the passenger, who is also from Italy, um, from Pisa, which is not in the red zone, but is in the center of Italy, northern central area, that in the same way that they were exhibiting full precaution, we would also do so. St. Lucia does not have the capacity to test for COVID-19. Barbados has that capacity, and we will have the test results within 4 hours. But what we did not want to happen was for the nonsense of the rumors that are beginning to circulate, because the epidemic of rumor is in fact worse than the epidemic of the virus, because the epidemic of rumor can cause instability and um, areas of discomfort and matters of disquiet related to public order. In addition to our citizens, 37 of whom are on board this ship, to whom we have an absolute responsibility, not just a fiduciary responsibility, but an obligation to protect. We are therefore ensuring that the ship can come into harbour. Arrangements have been made. We have spoken to the General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union. We've spoken to the port authorities. We have spoken to the medical authorities. The Minister of Health would have had his emergency um, operations committee meeting early this morning, pursuant to all of the actions and discussions that we took all through the night and right into the morning. And Barbados is ready for what we have to do. We don't expect it to be positive, largely because, and Minister Walcott and Dr. George are doctors. They can speak in their own deliberate things, but I'm told that once a person doesn't show symptoms, that they don't just get back symptoms again, and that there's a distinct likelihood that we should be okay. But we are not taking any chances with the people of this nation. We have a duty to protect people's health and well-being. I want to say that we have been in conversations with different levels of representatives, right up to the head of Carnival, this morning, twice again, and they have been absolutely cooperative in working with us and accommodating our questions, and we thank them for that. But as I said to them, we also will not take chances with our population. The ship, once it comes into harbor, the medical officials will embark the ship, and they'll take the swabs and allow them to go and be tested. We will ask the passengers to remain on board the ship during the period of time of testing. But we have every confidence, as I said, that once that comes back negative, then there will be no issues. In the event, and the very rare event that it is positive, then we have a duty, one, first to quarantine the Barbadian passengers from off of the ship. And I am here to tell you that the work that the Minister of Health and the ministry officials have done, and the CMO and his officials have done over the course of the last few weeks, allows us to be in a comfortable position to be able to quarantine all 37 of the Barbadian passengers on the board, should it come to that. Between both the Elaine Scanterbury Centre and Paragon, the third facility which we are fixing isn't quite finished, but fortunately we have enough space. And given what is happening in the world today, I would anticipate that you would want to make sure that at some point we are in a position to respond to these things should it happen. The bottom line is that we have more than enough space at the Elaine Scanterbury Centre in St. Lucie and at Paragon. But we in addition have an excellent field hospital, which is one of the prized assets of the Barbados Defence Force, and is in fact regarded as one of the best in the developing countries in the world. That will allow us to accommodate at least another 40 should we need to do so, so that we are satisfied that our ability to have taken the early testing training in testing from PAHO. We have in fact tested one person already who was negative, out of an abundance of caution thereby again. And we are also continuing to work with our border security partners at the Joint Regional Communications Center, which is a subsidiary of Impacts. I think at the last CARICOM Heads of Government meeting day before, I would have indicated that that is our first response, because it allows us to, before the vessels even get here, for us to be able to do the analysis that will then allow the port health officials and the medical officials to be able to have a risk-based analysis. If I do say so, in an earlier life, both Minister Bostic and myself would have had to make sure that that entity came in to reality. And you never know when you need something until you need it. And it has now proven to be the region's lifesaver in terms of allowing the region to manage this. At the same time, as chairman of CARICOM yesterday, I would have asked the Secretary General to coordinate a meeting of the Ministers of Health of the Caribbean community with PAHO, with CARFA. CARFA is the Caribbean Public Health Agency. PAHO, as you know, is the entity that WHO uses in this part of the world, in the Americas. And fortunately for us, in the case of PAHO, it is headed by a Dominican, Dr. Etienne, who would have spoken to me. The Minister of Health arranged for her. She wanted to speak to us just before lunch yesterday. And then again at the teleconference that we had with all of the Ministers of Health and the CARICOM Secretariat, I'm happy that Dr. Etienne and her senior team were also in that meeting, as well as the head of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, who is Dr. Joyce St. John, a former CMO of Barbados. So that we're satisfied that we have the resources, technical expertise. We have been preparing for any eventuality. We are hoping that we don't have to press any of this into action, but we are sanguine that when we listen to the advisories from all of the entities, that we have to be prepared for any eventuality. There are aspects of it that are a little better than they were when we first heard about it, because we now know that the mortality rate of affected cases in hospitals outside of Wuhan, where it started, is somewhere between 0.3% to 1%. What does that mean? That 3 out of every 1,000 people potentially would be facing life-threatening circumstances. Having said that, that is not in any way to discount the seriousness of it or the need for each of us, every one of us in here, wash your hands, clean yourself. When you're sneezing, move away from people, and coughing, move away from people, and make sure you take the necessary precautions to keep washing your hands all through the day. This is not something, and the doctors have reinforced it with me, the boat does not carry, the ship does not carry the virus. It's not something that you are at risk of because it is there. The risk comes from close contact because of the, what do you call it, droplets that you have. So we're satisfied that we will be in a position to handle the immediate consequences. The Minister of Foreign Affairs will shortly be speaking to the British High Commissioner to also indicate to her what is happening. And I would simply ask that we just cease from circulating things that are unhelpful and that may cause people to panic, from workers back down to ordinary citizens or even people wanting to come here. There is no issue in Barbados. There is no issue on the carnival. We are going to out of an abundance of caution. I must tell you that the last medical declaration form that they sent to the CMO indicated that there was nobody on board the ship sick. And that is because they maintain that the gentleman has no symptoms. Having said that, because of their earlier medical declaration form that was given to the government of St. Lucia, and the second one which said that he had pharyngitis, the first one said, and we have copies of both, first one said he had influenza, the second one said he had pharyngitis, which is what, a sore throat with a low-grade fever. The third one says he has nothing. Now, when you get 1, 2, 3, we have an obligation to the people of this country, both those who live here and those who visit in here, to ensure that this country is as safe as is possible to be. So let us allow it. I believe that it should be docking shortly, and that we will be able to have the test results in quick order. And at the appropriate time, if we need to meet back with you, we will. If not, we will communicate what the results are and the appropriate actions that will be taken. Okay. Are there any questions? Dr. George, you want to say anything?
No, I think you were very right, Prime. If we're going to stop this epidemic, we need to take the simple prevention and control measures that have been spoken about: washing hands, good respiratory etiquette. Please remember that Barbados has shown a lot of leadership. We were one of the first countries to have an isolation center, the first country to do testing in the region. We went ahead of ourselves. So we are just letting the Barbadian public know that we continue to make every effort to keep this population safe. That's it.
I also want just finally to say that I think that the Barbadian public knows that my government will keep it updated on everything, and that we will speak frankly to the public, and that we cannot guarantee that there will be no crises or difficulties in life. That is not our ability to do so. But when they happen, we must be prepared to confront them and treat to them in as mature and as serious a manner as possible, minimizing the risk that exists and containing the difficulties that persons will face. In summary, we cannot prevent the spread necessarily of this disease globally, but we have to be prepared that if at all it comes on our shores, we can contain it, ensure that there is no community risk, there's no risk of community spreading, widespread spreading, and secondly, that those who, if ever affected, that we are in a position to treat properly. And as Dr. George says, with the isolation center, the quarantine facilities, the testing machines, and an excellent medical team, if I do say so myself, we are in a better position. And if we need additional help, we have both CARFA and PAHO ready and willing to provide it at a minute's notice. Are there any questions?
If someone could walk us through the process of what would happen when the ship docks and they come to the port.
Jeffrey? You want to speak? Or Dr. George?
I'm going to be I'm the ship docks. We have a very well-trained and professional team who have been in this situation before, not only in H1N1, but during the Ebola outbreak. And they have done this before. They have gone to the ships, boarded the ships, taking the required protection of themselves, taking samples, left, and that's how we're going to get the results. So we're going to do it in a way that protects all individuals, both on the ship and certainly our staff. I am convinced that these persons have trained, and not only trained, these persons have been recognized in the region as knowing how to handle this type of situation.
Okay, and in the case of the 37 Barbadians, they'll be coming off the ship after you test?
No. Nobody comes off until we get the test results.
That's correct.
Because as we indicated, as we don't expect, but if it perchance is in fact positive, then we immediately move to quarantining those 37 Barbadians, as well as seeking to work with the British with respect to the other persons who are on the plane, on the ship, but due to board a plane. The ship is naturally scheduled to leave tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And we hope that we can clarify this within a few hours and allow the passengers who would have been otherwise in St. Lucia today to get a full day and a half of Barbados instead. So we pray that that will be the outcome this afternoon. But as I said, I promised the people of this country when we became the government that when we act in your name, other than on matters of national security, that we will be absolutely frank with you at all times and protect the people of this country above all else at all times. And the people of this country are those who are living here, but also those who choose to live here temporarily, called visitors. So we will protect everyone at all times. Thank you.
Are there any figures as to how many people were on board the ship? We have.
You mean the overall passenger count? It's about 2,200?
Yes, 2,200.
2,200.
2281.
2,281 specifically.
There's passengers.
Yes.
And then
Yeah, but then there's also crew. Okay? But this gentleman was a crew member. So in any event, he would not have been interacting with passengers. He's an engineer, electrical engineer, so he would not have been interacting with passengers, so that the risks are really very, very minimal. But as I said, our duty is to who? To you and you and you and you and you and you, and to all visiting. Okay?
You give an age for him?
Sorry?
Give an age for him?
48 years old. 48 years old. That's young, no? I can say that's young nowadays. Any other questions?
Yeah, Prime Minister, can you give an indication of how many people we currently have in quarantine, or how many total, with the total number that are quarantined
How many now?
facilities can hold?
3 to 4.
There's still 4 people in quarantine.
How many people in total can our facilities accommodate?
As I said, we're moving. At the moment, we can handle the 40 easily between Paragon and Elaine Scanterbury Center. But as you remember, Parliament 2 weeks ago voted another $800,000, I believe. $1.2 million to fix up a medical facility, the old district hospital up there, which will allow us to go beyond that 40 if we need to, and then the medical hospital of the Barbados Defense Force. So we're building up capacity that we feel that epidemiologically the Barbados will be appropriate. Is that correct, sir?
You also made mention of an upcoming meeting with the ministers of health from across the region.
Yeah, we had that meeting yesterday. Yes.
Right. Coming out of the last one,
Mhm.
our immigration policy was a bit different to the others. I wanted to find out whether we would see a change
Because
in terms of
no,
that.
well, Barbados has to have a. We will support a risk-based management approach to these matters, and that's why I said that the Joint Regional Communications Center is capable of helping us to track travel, and that then allows the port health people, in addition with their observation practices that they employ at the port, to be able to isolate persons if necessary. We have had instances where other countries in the region have put outright bans, other than for the province of Wuhan, for which we said that if they come, we will quarantine them, or if there are other signs observed that would cause and merit a person to be quarantined, we will do that. But look and see what the other countries are doing. The United States has not banned travel from Italy. And the truth is that there are a number of other countries that have recognized that there is a danger perhaps of overshooting, and we have to be able to get the balance right. And I think thus far Barbados has been able to do so. What we cannot do at all costs is to have panic, because I can assure you that with panic, the mortality rate will be far more than 0.3%.
Okay, to the
Last, at the last CARICOM meeting, Joyce and John, she would have commented about establishing a regional treatment protocol. I want to have there been any developments with that?
That's exactly what yesterday we were dealing with. They've done some work already. Yesterday, I established a technical working group that comprises CARFA, PAHO representatives, SEDIMA, the same Impact Stroke JRCC that we told you about, Grenada and Jamaica as representative of the large and small countries in the region, and they will not only work all today, but they will also be liaising with the Florida Cruise Ship Association, because the biggest issue really is how to manage the issue of cruise more than even the airport. The airport, I think we have completely under control regionally. But with respect to the cruise, obviously there are issues that could be challenging. Luckily for the industry, and Mr. Donald would have reinforced it this morning again, that for all the cruise ships they are globally, there's really only been one issue thus far that has proven to be problematic, and that's the one off Japan. But out of an abundance of caution, people will want to make sure that they don't expose their populations to things that they ought not and don't need to. We expect the technical working group to report by tomorrow afternoon again, and we'll work through the weekend, because that's just probably a first draft. But suffice it to say that in the interim, we also have guidelines from the World Tourism Organization, which we can share with you, that give us clear ideas, and it's just for us to determine whether those protocols fit our peculiar needs within the region, because not everybody has the same capacity in respect to their healthcare systems or with their port facilities, okay, and with their testing ability. All right. Anything
the
else?
Minister of Tourism, there were reports out of the UK this morning that about 50 persons were confirmed with the virus. Are there any concerns on your end re tourism?
No, it is a risk-based approach, as the Prime Minister said, that we're taking, and with respect to visitors coming from England or, quite frankly, any other part of the world, we adopt that risk-based approach. Again, you have to look at it in the context of the reality of the United Kingdom. It's a very large population, and 50 people really represents a very tiny percentage of risk. At the airport, there's a standing protocol whereby public health officials and the Minister of Health has gone through this protocol extensively in Parliament already. Public health officials are present, meeting every flight, interacting with passengers on a random basis, making their own assessments of persons who appear to be unwell. You, at the point of the kiosk, are asked to indicate what countries you've arrived from. If you are cited as being part of the high-risk zone, you are then referred for a further type of observation. So it is, I think, as safe as we can possibly make it without going into the realm of what the Prime Minister properly describes as panicking.
Do we have any figures on the number of people who came out of China? Particularly, we had some students down there.
I'm sure that we do. If you're asking me to give you them, no, I can't. And you know me long enough to know that I ain't gonna bluff or lie. So at the appropriate time, I'll ask that the others get that to you. But in terms of the, you have everything specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
We
Jeffrey's on top of the game.
we've been able to screen and also place into home quarantine about 65 persons who have traveled from China. Quite a few of them have been in transit passengers, so we were able to get them out within a day or so. And the remainder, who for the most part have been Barbadians, we've been monitoring those persons, and most of those persons, with the exception of about 4, would have completed the 14-day period, and they deemed to be safe. We were monitoring them on a daily basis from the polyclinics, and also from a special team that has been assigned to visit every single residence where persons are in home quarantine to ensure that they're not developing the symptoms.
As we're talking, my phone would have brought up a alert from the news, and the other, I mean, this one shows guests in Tenerife who were quarantined in a hotel now being allowed to leave. So, look, we're gonna have some unusual times in the world. It's not just about here. Thus far, we've been lucky in the Caribbean. We want to continue to be lucky, but we are prepared for any eventuality. And to that extent, I ask citizens, this is a battle always that if everybody does, I see Joy right with her hands again. There's some people who used to do this all the time. I want them to do it with soap and water all the time, and not just as if they're the Pope. Okay. Any other questions? Are we good? I really want to thank all of the medical officials of the government of Barbados, CMO and the Minister of Health and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and myself were on the phone throughout, I would say, most of the night till certainly about 4:30. I went back again early morning. The chairman of the port, the Minister of Tourism, and others would have gotten involved this morning. And I want to thank the representative of the cruise line, Mr. Ince, as well as I want to thank the management of Carnival and the leadership of Carnival, because we've shown that when industry and government work together cooperatively, this is the kind of thing that can happen. And by us taking in front, not allowing rumor to predominate, it means that we can manage this in a mature way that does not bring any dishonor to the country or any loss to the country or the Carnival, other than the 4 hours that we wait now for the test results out of an abundance of caution.
We'll
Okay.
get an update when the test.
Certainly, I said so earlier. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.